Luka in LA debuts tonight. Jazz are there for it. Sacrificial lamb or spoiler? Next on Locked on Jazz.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps, and glad to be with you. Jazz, Luka, Lakers, all happening tonight. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can be at $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. To the everydayers, thank you very much for joining the show. Here's what I got for you. We'll do Trends Monday, as we always do. And the Lakers, by the way, are the hottest team in the NBA. Have that coming up for you. We'll talk about the Jazz games in Phoenix and the Clippers' growth of two youngsters. Overall, ton of positives in both those ball games by the Utah Jazz. Tough loss in Phoenix, get blown out at the end against the Clippers. And some interesting things to keep an eye on. And tonight, the Jazz play Luka Doncic and the LA Lakers. The first thing is the Jazz injury report, pretty clean. So it's clear the Utah Jazz have come to Los Angeles tonight with the intention of playing spoiler. And to some extent, for a Jazz team that's not going to make the playoffs, and for a Jazz team that's probably going to have, guys in and out of the lineup the rest of the way, trying to make sure everyone stays healthy and everyone's ready and developing, this is our Super Bowl. Tonight's game for the Utah Jazz is a little bit of their Super Bowl. The league's attention is going to be on the Jazz. No, the Jazz will have more national people watching them tonight than any game all year the rest of the way, and maybe all games combined for the rest of the year, frankly. So this is the night. Tonight's the Super Bowl for the Utah Jazz. Tonight is the night where they'll go put out full bore, all guys, all hands on deck, and let's see if we can create a national firestorm about Luke and LeBron aren't going to work together. Oh, my gosh, look, they got beat by the lowly Utah Jazz. Oh, the second worst record in the NBA. Luka and LeBron will never work together. That's the goal tonight. Let's set Stephen A. and Colin Cowherd and all those guys off on some crazy, absurd, ridiculous Kendrick Perkins immediate reaction theater of absurdity on one night in which the Jazz stunned the Lakers despite all the energy in the building. That's the goal tonight. And the Jazz are coming to play spoiler. They are not coming to be sacrificial lamb. This is not walking in and letting Kobe celebrate. And the energy around this is awesome. And Wednesday night at home is going to be awesome. And tickets are available at utahjazz.com as well. Get that one to watch Luka play his first road game as the Jazz will come to L.A. So will probably most of L.A. who can't get in the building tonight. Tickets are skyrocketing on Game Time right now. This town is all talking about Luka. Everywhere you go, everything they want to know is about Luka. It's Shohei's town, and Luka has now arrived to be there with him. Few thoughts on Luka in L.A. Okay, first thing, I keep getting asked about the trade. And as time has gone on, I just want to say this. This is the number one reaction that I'm getting from around the league when I talk to people. If any of the real issues that existed are true, and frankly, some of them might be, attention to detail and conditioning, there's the very well-publicized picture of Michael Finley taking the beer out of his hand. All the various things that the Dallas has basically thrown Luke under the bus for to justify their trade. The number one comment that has come back to me from across the league time and time again is, yeah, that's why your organization exists. That's actually what we do as organizations. We need to create environments by which players succeed And if they're not conditioned enough, we have to get them to the point where they condition. And if they have an off-court problem, it is our job to support them and get them through that. And if they are a pain in the, you know what? It's our job to manage that pain because they're the best in the world. And that's the number one consensus that everyone has said to me across the board, talking to everyone. I mean, people are beside themselves that the Lakers got Luka. Beside themselves. Oh my gosh, poor Clipper front office people. They're trying to build a franchise in the town, and now they have Luka. I mean, it's their biggest nightmare. But that's the number one thing that has come across to me is from everything is that's what an organization's for. That's what an organization's job is. That's what an organization does, is they support their player and get them to the point where they do those things correctly. And Nico Harrison and the Mavericks just punted on that concept on one of the top 3 or 4 players in the world. Okay, here's something interesting about Luka. When we played Luka earlier this year, he was really struggling before he took his conditioning break. He ranked 53rd out of 62 in isolations. He used to be number 4 in the league. He was 47th out of 62 in the pick and roll. He was 10th the year before and number 1 in the league in 22-23. Like, his numbers were way off. Way off. And so, okay, then that means some, except for the fact that when he came back after that break on December 1st, until he had the calf injury, he was far and away back to being the number 1 pick and roll player in all of the NBA. His handoff game, which is not his biggest part, but his handoff game was at like 1 point per possession. Now it's back up at 1.04. His isolation game was at 0.85. It's now back up to 1.02. His pick and roll game, which was terrible, is now back up to number 1 in the league after December 1st. At was about 1.25. I mean, crazy number. His average for the year is right back where it was a year ago and a little down from 2 years ago when he was the best in the NBA. It's all there. His jump shot to start the year was terrible. He shot on open threes to open the year for his little conditioning break. He shot 30% on threes, on open threes, 4 to 6 feet or 4 feet or more of room. He was 28 of 92 for 30%. Interestingly enough, he took 92 of those after December 1st when he came back, and he made 37%, so he literally went to 40%. He went from 30% to 40%. So, yeah, coming out of an NBA Finals with a shorter offseason, probably some depression of losing the NBA Finals, of not playing well, Luka was out of shape when the year started and wasn't very good, and then he took a break, and he got in shape, and he was just as dominant as he's ever been, and he was just as good as he's ever been, and they traded him. It's criminal. He's going to be great tonight, and he's going to be great in LA. Don't let any of the noise and the words and the justification and the absurdity make you believe that there's anything wrong with Luka Doncic's game. He is still as dominating an offensive force as the NBA has, and the data backs it up. He's still awesome. Don't let any of that stuff tarnish it. Don't doubt it. One interesting note that I found was if you look at the amount of picks Luka has run per game, he ran 56 years ago, or 5 years ago, then 51, then 45, then 41, and this year he was only running 29. It's almost as though the Mavericks had made a decision already during the season to try to move away from being so Luka-centric, which is interesting. Another interesting note on tonight's game is some of the stuff that's going on with the Lakers. So when we played the Lakers on November 19th, the big storyline was how much the offense has changed with J.J. Redick. However, they were running, last year they ran 76 picks a game and they were down to 53. Well, guess what? Since November 19th, they're back up to 66. And off-ball screens, which was, they had gone from 27 to 49. They were running the most in the league. They're now averaging since November 19th, 34 instead of 49. And actually since January 15th, the last month when they've been hot, they're down to 30. And the handoff game, which he had taken from 16 a game to 25, is now down to 18. So it's interesting. J.J. Redick came in, built this whole different style of offense for the Lakers, and then was run. They were down at 53 picks a game until November 19th. They've run 66 picks a game now per game since November 19th. Okay, that's going back. They've gone from 49 off-ball screens down to 30. They've gone from 25 handoffs down to 18. So they've been already moving in this direction of increasing their pick-and-roll presence, a lot less off-ball screens, and now they've added Luka, who's the greatest pick-and-roll player in the NBA. But an interesting twist. I don't think I'll be able to get that question into J.J. Redick today with everything else going on. But an interesting little twist on how their offense has changed. And as we will get to you in Trends Monday, in that time period, they're now the sixth best offense in the NBA, and they're the hottest team in the NBA. Jazz weekend losses in L.A. and Phoenix, but ton of positives, leading it off with a point guard from USC who has been tearing it up, and a rookie from Duke who's making major strides. It's next on Locked on Jazz. Monday edition of Locked on Jazz is brought to you by my friends over at Murdoch Chevy. The Chevy trucks, which is kind of awesome, right? The Silverado, the Colorado. The Silverado's the king poobah of them all. The SUV lineup of Chevys is absolutely fabulous, from the Tahoe to the Suburban, the Utah County assault vehicles, working their way down to the smaller tracks, the Equinox and the Blazer in the middle. The Chevy lineup of Americana. It is Chevy. It is Americana. And the Murdochs are Utah, so it's a perfect combination between the two. 80-plus years in Utah for the Murdochs. Chevy, the best truck on the market, made in its unique fashion, and the Americana that is the Chevy truck. If you're interested in getting into the market for a Chevy right now and doing it with the Murdochs over in Woods Cross or in Logan, feel free to email me first at dlock09@gmail.com. That's dlock09@gmail.com so that we can make sure that we give you the VIP treatment. We'll set you up. That's dlock09@gmail.com. Today's show is also brought to you by Skims. Yeah, let's talk underwear. Skims is making underwear for men. So, as you've probably heard from some other people in your house, Skims makes underwear for women, and everyone loves it. Well, I had heard so much about it from them that I was willing to try it. And when I got my Skims, I was very, very pleased. Multiple different models, the boxer briefs to the classic briefs, the fit, the comfort, right style. Skims has been fabulous. When I'm on a travel day, that's what I'm going with. There's nothing worse than bad underwear on a travel day, right? Like, you're just like, oh. So the men's line offers something for everyone, designed with perfect balance and comfort. The boxer brief has been my go-to, and I'm hooked. Perfect active lifestyle. They move with you. They never lose their shape. They stay in place all day. And whether you're working out or running errands, the most comfortable and reliable underwear I've owned. So, lightweight material, feels amazing, almost like you're wearing nothing at all. Well, you can decide whether that's a look and a feel that you want. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com and Skims stores. Let them know we sent you after you place your order. Select podcast in the survey and select the show Locked On drop-down menu. And if you're looking for the perfect gift for your Valentine or yourself, Skims just launched their best Valentine's Day shop ever. Available in sizes for women, men, kids, and even pets. It's all at, even pets. It's all at skims.com. Thank you very much for listening to Locked on Jazz today, or watching. Thank you for tuning in. We have the daily newsletter. It's called Locked on Jazz. It is empty the noggin after ball games. It's breakdowns of the Jazz. It's got national articles from Katie Heindel and Mike Schreier. It's got the fantasy from Josh Lloyd. It is the #1 ultimate stop for all your NBA news. You get this newsletter every morning. You'll get your Jazz, your NBA, your fantasy, plus links to all the most important best stories. You'll be completely covered, and you'll need nothing else. So go to LockedOnDaily.com right now and sign up, and please sign up for Locked on Jazz. Jazz lost twice, Phoenix and the Clippers, and frankly, a lot of people like losing right now, so that's fine. 2 different games. Jazz went pretty full bore against Phoenix, and then a young group, including at one point in the fourth quarter, we played all 5 players on the floor had 2 or fewer years experience. Again, the signature of this team has been effort, competition. They're going to get run again here pretty soon. I think at some point fatigue's going to kick in and they're going to get run, but they have not been run in a while. I know they lost by 20 to the Clippers, but that game was a 2-point game with 7 minutes left, so they did not get run. And we're just seeing better basketball. And the coolest thing to me that we're seeing right now, and I tried to show this to you guys last week, is you're seeing plays in which the coaching staff is putting something into the offense or implement, and then they're actually executing it to some extent in ball games, and they're beginning to see these pieces come together. And they don't execute great all the time, and they make silly plays, and they're young, and they do all these kind of things, and you just tear your hair out, and they get tired, they make a lazy pass, and they don't understand the value of possession. I got it. All those things are true. It's why you lose games. But you're seeing an overall competitive zest that's taking place. I do think that Isaiah Collier is a large part of this. And some of the numbers are getting a little interesting on Isaiah Collier. So 1 or 2 of them is that the team seems to be playing a little bit better when he's on the floor. Not dramatically better, but just a little. So the shooting percentage is, and I can't do, I'm working on this. I haven't finished it yet. I usually clean the glass, but they don't let me put date windows into it. So I'm actually having to do that through a different route. But if we look at our on-off stats with Isaiah Collier right now, the offense now shoots 2.2 percentage points better in effective field goal percentage when Collier's on the floor. It's a lot. John Collins is the best at 3.7, and then Collin. But Collier's, with his, even though he can't shoot, what he's doing for everybody else is pretty impressive. And then defensively, we're not quite as good, but not as bad. So that's the first one. Some individual players are beginning to look way better when on the floor with Isaiah Collier, namely Keyonte George. So Keyonte George is now shooting, last I checked, it was 9 percentage points going into the Clipper game, effective field goal percentage better when he's on the floor with Keyonte than when he's on, or when Keontae's on the floor with Isaiah than when he's off the floor. So that's getting really interesting. And then there's just an overall feeling of tempo and pace, which actually the numbers don't back up, but the visual does back up, which is kind of interesting. So, really kind of cool to see taking place right now. Jordan Clarkson actually has been the biggest benefactor of Isaiah Collier in the limited time they've played together, where Clarkson's effective field goal percentage is 59% when he's on the floor with Collier and 45% when he's not. So when we're playing transition, he gets out, gets open floor, and gets those and makes a difference. Johnny Juzang is another benefactor, and then Keyonte is the next benefactor. In fact, everybody on the roster is shooting better with Collier on the floor other than Micah Potter. And Walker Kessler, barely different. 3 percentage points. I mean, like 1 or 2 shots. So everyone on the roster is shooting better when they're on the floor with Isaiah Collier. Pretty cool. And a good step in the right direction for Isaiah. And we're beginning to, his plus minus is beginning to show it. But we're beginning to see that element of Isaiah Collier. The other guy that has made a nice step is Kyle Filipowski. I thought that was an important game against the Clippers. I thought he could have gotten really humiliated. Zubac's so big. He's starting, not playing with other good players. And I actually thought he held himself fine. There were moments where he got overpowered and Zoo went like 11 for 13, but most of those were on switches, not on Kyle. He doesn't protect the rim great. I thought he could have gotten switched out on Harden on mismatches and looked ridiculous all day. I really thought that was a chance for a tough outing. That, you got Zubac, who's bigger and stronger than anyone he's ever guarded in his whole life. You have the James Harden, Kawhi Leonard going to get him on mismatches. Kyle's averaging on defense. He's been in isolation almost 100 times this year, and he gets caught at about. I think his number is about 1.13. It's like this is not a criticism at all, by the way. Like he shouldn't be good at isolation defense. So of isolation defenders who've been in 90, which is about 120 guys, he's been in about 100 of them, and he's the 9th worst out of 116. Okay, that's fine. That's what he should be as a rookie. Naz Reid's like the 4th worst. RJ Barrett's the worst. They've been in the league for a long, long time. So, like, this isn't like, Jaylen Brown's in this list of guys that aren't good. Lowry, frankly, is 15th worst of 116 guys in isolation defense. And so I thought that really had a chance to be a night which Kyle just got humiliated, and the exact opposite happened. I thought he just held his own and played really well. I thought that was a really, really encouraging night for Kyle Filipowski the other night. That, frankly, he has not been out. This is what I think you have to remember about some of our players. Our younger players have not been outmatched in their life. Kyle Filipowski's never walked into a game where the starting center on the other side is that much bigger and that much stronger than him. And he's probably never been in a matchup in his life where he ends up having James Harden and Kawhi Leonard and guys like that who are isolation masters suddenly isoing him, and he's got to figure out how to deal with it. And I'm not like, don't misunderstand me. Like, I don't think he was like, we didn't break through that he's going to be some defensive wizard or that he's suddenly going to be able to match up against the strongest guys in the league. I just thought he played the night. He didn't quit. He fought through it. I thought it was kind of great. That's really what my point is. And I think sometimes you have to take that. Like, he got caught in isolations. He allowed a bucket or two, but it wasn't like they found him as the pigeon and went after him on every play. And we were switching everything because you have to with him. So I thought was really, those two guys I thought have had really encouraging stretch. Isaiah's going to have to figure out how to shoot, right? And Kyle's going to have to figure out some things as well. He frankly has to probably figure out how to shoot too. But we're watching both these guys that are late first-round draft picks and a not very good draft begin to show some real signs. It's pretty great. And the confidence that Isaiah's playing with. I thought the Clipper game, Isaiah played okay. I did think back-to-back after 35 minutes against pretty big-time guys, I thought he looked like he kind of had met his match. Great. That's part of the learning process. The thing that's impressive about Utah right now, and Will Hardy gave the credit to the veterans on this, is just the level they're competing every night. This is not the greatest, most enjoyable thing in the world to go lose every night. And the guys have stayed engaged and battled every single night all the way around. And that, I think, is the most exciting part about it. And it's why tonight's going to be awesome, because this is their night. They've gone through all this stuff. Tonight's their night to just go after it, get after the Lakers, see if they can ruin the party, play the spoiler, and destroy the Lakers and Luka Doncic's open night, and then watch everyone have a hissy fit about it. It's going to be great. Be awesome. That's clearly what the goal is tonight for the Utah Jazz, to see what they can do with that. Trends Monday. The Jazz are playing the hottest team in the NBA tonight, just to add on to it a little bit more. Next on Locked On Jazz. Today's edition of Locked On Jazz is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel, official sports book of Locked On. Also, hopefully, took place in all the Super Bowl fun. And now the game's tipping off, and NBA action is your spot. There's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets in the same game parlay. FanDuel's live betting feature keeps you up every moment of the exciting game, whether you're backing your team or late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three. You never miss a chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers get $150 in bonus bets. If your first $5 bet wins, visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA and the official sportsbook partner of Locked On. Every Monday, we like to give you Trends Monday. We do it in two different fashions. We take a look at the last 2 weeks of NBA action, and we take a look at last 10 games of NBA action, and we look at the last 2 weeks of NBA action. The number one team in the NBA over the last 2 weeks is the Los Angeles Lakers. They're 9-1. Their differential is a 14.7. The number 2 team is the Oklahoma City Thunder, which is not a big surprise. And the number 3 team is the Minnesota Timberwolves. Pretty interesting. The number 4 team is the Portland Trailblazers. What? That's right. The Blazers are 8-2 in their last 10 and have the 4th best differential in the NBA, tied with Cleveland. Those 5 teams have been better than just about everybody else. Memphis, Boston, and Denver follow suit. The bottom teams in the NBA, Washington's -11. Orlando has not got it going yet. They're -10. Jazz, Pelicans, and Sacramento. Oh, Doug Christie's in charge. And all of a sudden, things are not great in Sacramento. They're 4-6. They've held on, but their differential is a -8. Chicago is next. Hottest offensive team in the NBA over the last 10 games. The Cleveland Cavaliers continue on their torrid pace. Thunder are 2, Minnesota's 3. Minnesota really had a hard time scoring earlier this year. Something has clicked in right there. Julius Randle got hurt. Might be part of it. Denver is 4. Memphis is 5. The Lakers are 6. 5 of the 6 teams are Western Conference teams. Teams struggling to score right now. Orlando is last. Brooklyn, Washington, Atlanta cannot score. Jalen Johnson out for the year. Charlotte and Toronto. Best defensive team over the last 10 games is Portland. How about that? Chauncey Billups has got those guys to play some defense. Donovan Clingan is playing more and more. Portland, Lakers are number 2. Oklahoma City is 3. Minnesota is 4. Brooklyn, good work there by Jordy Fernandez. And Toronto is 6th. Kind of amazing. Teams that are not defending at all right now, New Orleans, Dallas, not a great sign. Sacramento, I mean, Luka wasn't the problem defensively. Sacramento, Utah, Milwaukee not defending again. Chicago and Philadelphia are the teams on that. Let's look at the more recent trends. See what we see over the last 2 weeks instead of over the last 10 games. Often the same, but sometimes you can kind of see who's hotter at the moment and things of that nature to kind of give you a little bit of an idea. The number 1 differential team is Oklahoma City at +24, then Cleveland, then the Lakers, then Minnesota again, then Portland again, and Denver gets back into this. Denver's really kind of subtly just clicking right along right now. Kind of back to being Denver. The team struggling the most, Washington, Charlotte, New Orleans, Sacramento again, and Utah and Orlando. Milwaukee's not great either. They're right there. All right, offensive teams last 2 weeks, the best in the game are Oklahoma City, followed by Cleveland, followed by Denver. Lakers are 4th. Knicks are 5th. And Dallas is 6th. Minnesota's 8th over the last 2 weeks. They were hotter in the other one. Teams that can't score similar, Orlando, Charlotte, Toronto, Miami. Let's keep an eye on that. Brooklyn and Washington. Jazz are actually up to 21st offensively over the last 2 weeks, playing with a little bit better defense. The number 1 defensive team in the NBA over the last 2 weeks is the Brooklyn Nets, followed by the Portland Trailblazers. Crazy. Didn't expect that. Oklahoma City, Minnesota, Cleveland, and then the Lakers are 6th. As they have, Lakers are really playing about as well as you can. The team's not defending right now. Milwaukee is the worst defensive team in the league now over the last 8 games. Keep an eye on that. Dallas is the 2nd worst. New Orleans, then Phoenix, followed by Utah. That's 3 teams trying to make the playoffs have literally stopped defending here for a while. Philadelphia's in that group as well at 25th, Sacramento. So interesting little notes there on Trends Monday to keep an eye on. How about Brooklyn and Portland being the number 1 defensive teams in the league over the last 2 weeks? Certainly would not have suspected that. Jazz and the Lakers tonight. Ron Boone and I'll be with us. Stay up late. Join us for it. Join SEG Plus as well. Tickets are available for Wednesday to see the Jazz and the Lakers and Luka. So get on board for that. Should be a great deal of fun. Plus, if you have not started following me on socials, DLock09. Try to have a bunch of content for you today on Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Snapchat, TikTok, all of them. And if you have not followed or subscribed to the program, please do so and go to LockedOnDaily.com to sign up for your daily newsletter for Locked On Jazz. We now send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA channel. It's called Locked On Sports National NBA channel on Locked On NBA. Plus, check out Locked On NBA game night, every game, every night on Locked On NBA. Have a great one. Congratulations, Eagles.